welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a really fascinating and, I think, challenging look at the foundational principles of agriculture.
We are. Our source material comes from Chris Winters of fertilecurrent.com, and his whole philosophy it completely upends the traditional view.
Right. The traditional view always starts and ends with chemistry, soil tests, NPK, pH, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And what Chris is proposing with hyperdynamic agriculture is, well, it's a radical resequencing of that.
So what's the new sequence?
He suggests that chemistry is just the residue of electrical action, and that electricity itself is an action of light.
Wow. Okay, so we're not starting at chemistry, we're starting at light. We're moving from seeing a farm as a chemical equation to seeing it as what? A massive energetic circuit.
That's it. It's about building a power supply, not constantly chasing symptoms with chemical fixes.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start at the most fundamental level, which seems to be the geometry of energy. How does the physical form of something dictate its energetic function?
It starts with the practice that most people might have heard of, which is biodynamics. Specifically, the use of animal horns.
The cow horn, right.
The cow horn, specifically. It's used because of its structure. It's this perfect, tapering spiral shape, and crucially, the material itself, the keratin, is a powerful dielectric insulator.
The dielectric insulator, so it holds energy in. It's like creating a battery or a resonant container.
A resonant container is the perfect way to describe it. So you take this horn, you place a carbon substrate like manure inside, along with preparatory materials. Zero is a classic one. And you bury it for 6 months.
And what's happening inside that horn for those 6 months? It's not just composting, is it?
No, not at all. It's not passive. Because the horn is a dielectric insulator, it keeps energy in and it keeps outside interference out. Photoelectric reactions are happening inside.
Photoelectric. From light, then?
From subtle light and earth energies, yes. Our source describes it as taking highly resonant photographs of the yarrow's vibratory pattern and imprinting that onto the carbon matrix.
So the key is the insulation. If that keratin coating breaks down, the whole thing it's compromised.
Precisely. The keratin provides that dielectric capacitance. Once soil bacteria start breaking that down, the energetic function just ceases. It's lost its resonant cavity.
I find the activation process for this so interesting. You don't just dump it on the soil.
No, you vortex it in water. It mimics how the heart charges blood plasma, creating this dynamic living motion.
And then you just spray it in these fine, supercharged droplets. Why so little?
Because you're broadcasting an energy, not applying a bulk material. Each one of those droplets has an energetic footprint of maybe 6 by 6 feet, or even 8 by 8. It works through a field effect, through resonance, not chemical volume.
That makes so much sense, and it connects directly to the work of Victor Schauberger. He was all about natural form, wasn't he?
He was. He famously warned against storing water in angular containers, like boxes.
Right, because corners create stagnation.
He called them angles of sorrow. Water wants to spiral, to curve. When you force it into a box, you create these little dead zones that negate its life force. That's where you get algae decay.
So the ideal container has no corners. A sphere is the perfect shape for a dielectric capacitor, and nature gives us something very close to that.
The egg.
The egg.
The egg is fascinating. Its shape follows the Fibonacci sequence, the fire ratio. It really embodies the resonance of life energy.
It's just like the horn, its power is tied to its coating.
Exactly. That exterior bloom on a fresh chicken egg, that's its dielectric capacitance. If you wash that off, which happens in, municipal egg production, the egg goes bad so much faster. It's lost its ability to hold its energy.
So the big insight here is that for life energy to be successfully stored and broadcast, you need a contained insulated cavity, a resonant capacitor.
It's a universal principle, and it extends beyond just containers. Schauberger argued that natural systems, living systems, they don't thrive on perfect 50-50 equilibrium. That's stasis, that's death.
He said the dynamic state is more like a 2/3 to 1/3 proposition, and it's always shifting.
Constantly shifting. That dynamic disequilibrium is what creates potential difference.
And potential difference creates force.
It creates force. The source had this brilliant architectural example, building a narrow male lancet arch dome and then protecting it with a broader female hemispherical dome.
And what happened when you put them together?
They didn't cancel out. They created a new third force, a child or a life force born from the potential difference between the two forms. That flux is what generates real energy.
Okay, so now that we get how form dictates energy storage and generation, let's talk about the material that makes a lot of this possible. Pure carbon. Biochar.
Right. Biochar is made through pyrolysis, which is a kind of alchemical purification. You're basically burning wood in the absence of oxygen.
Why no oxygen?
Because the fire then removes the volatiles, the impurities. What you're left with is the pure carbon matrix. It's literally a carbon copy of the original wood, just shrunk down about 20 or 30%. You get the pure essence of the thing.
And energetically, what are its properties?
It is intensely diamagnetic.
Okay, what does that mean? Diamagnetic.
So most things in our environment are paramagnetic. They're drawn toward a magnetic field. Think of oxygen gas, or even our own hearts, which generate a huge magnetic field. Diamagnetic materials, like this pyrolyzed carbon, are actually repelled by external magnetic fields.
How is that useful in farming?
Well, for one, it helps your cation exchange capacity, your CEC. Because the biochar is diamagnetic, it slightly repels the Earth's magnetic field, and that helps draw down positively charged ions cations into the soil. Better nutrient availability.
And this property is also where things get really relevant to our modern world, EMF remediation.
This is a huge piece of it. The source talks about how the highly diamagnetic nature of carbon is being studied specifically for blocking the propagation of millimeter waves.
And this connects to our own biology, right? The resonant frequency of oxygen.
Exactly. The resonant frequency of oxygen gas is around 60 gigahertz. That sits right in the band of millimeter waves used for, high-frequency communications.
And since oxygen is paramagnetic, it's highly responsive to these fields.
So if an external frequency is strong enough to entrain or disrupt the natural resonance of the oxygen molecule, you can get systemic distress.
The source described a really visceral experience with this.
He did. Intense tension in the heart and lung meridians, feeling like a heart attack right when a new 5G network went live in his area. If the subtle vibratory pattern of oxygen is compromised, the highly magnetic organs, like the heart, feel it first.
The whole system is seeking resonance, and if it's being disrupted, you have to introduce your own intentional signal. Which brings us to field broadcasting.
Let's start with the Hieronymus broadcaster.
Okay.
Thomas Galen Hieronymus. He was a radio operator in World War II, and he developed what's essentially a simple, non-powered Tesla crystal radio.
No power source.
None. It's all passive inductance. You have a central well, a copper-coiled cylinder with a crystal that acts as the receiver. You place materials in that well, say a piece of soil that needs magnesium or a highly vital plant.
And then how do you get that pattern out into the field?
The circuit connects to an antenna and a ground plate, and then to a broadcasting coil, 100 turns of copper wire buried in the soil. That coil takes the subtle vibrational patterns from the well and sends them right into the soil structure. You're broadcasting information, not chemicals.
That's incredible. And they're even simpler systems, right? The source learned one from Bhutanese monks?
Yes, an even simpler non-moving part device that uses that carbon matrix we were just talking about.
So how does the Bhutanese crystal grid work?
You take cylinders of pyrolyzed carbon, or biochar, the monks saw it as crystallized energy. You place them at the corners of your property, 4 for a square, 3 for a triangle.
Okay.
Then you establish a central cylinder, a well, placed precisely at true north. You fill that well with whatever the property signals that it needs. Minerals, ash from healthy plants.
And you cap it with biochar.
You cap it with biochar to activate it. The carbon cylinders on the perimeter then activate the entire crystal grid of the property, broadcasting that central information through the magnetic field lines.
You're treating the whole farm as one coherent energetic system. It's a huge leap.
Yeah.
Let's take it to the highest level now. Light, consciousness, and what comes even before hydrogen.
We're moving into the realm of Ken Wheeler and Dr. Wilhelm Reich here. Their proposition was that light isn't just a particle or a wave. It's a sound wave in the ether.
And when that sound wave slows down and condenses.
The very first element it turns into is something they call protium.
Protium. So the idea is that everything we see and touch is basically just condensed light.
That's the idea. And orgone, Dr. Reich's discovery, is hypothesized to be that raw proteolytic aspect of hydrogen. Moshe Daniels' orgone accumulators showed this powerful field effect. This energy is so rarefied you can't contain it, but its mere presence upregulates every system around it.
It provides a pure energetic surplus. So how is the farm actively trying to condense this light? This is where we circle back to biochar.
We do. We have to look at vitality at the cellular level. There's a technique called dark field microscopy.
Right, the Bigelsen brothers. Looking for somatids.
Somatids, you can think of them as little light thingies or cellular currency like ATP. The more vital a blood sample is, the more of these little blinking energetic units you see.
And what do you see when you look at biochar under that same microscope?
You see an unusually high volume of these somatids, these blinking light units swarming all around the material. The biochar is acting like a center of condensation for this light currency.
Wow. How is the carbon actually creating this light?
The proposed mechanism is that the dense, resonant structure of the biochar excites the atoms around it. It pushes them into an excited state. When those atoms inevitably drop back down to their stable ground state, that stored energy is released as photons, as light.
So the biochar is a constant low-level light generator for the soil.
That's a perfect summary.
This principle of harnessing current is also applied to water, which is the ultimate carrier of energy, the Cloud Sea Aqua Inductor.
This device is all about biomimicry. It's designed to mimic how a river finds its highest energetic state.
How does a river do that?
By flowing over alternating magnetic fields from different geological formations, the inductor does this artificially with a resonant circuit alternating magnets, a ferrous steel pipe, a copper coil, a ceramic capacitor.
And when water flows through that, what does it create?
It creates a back electromotive force, or a current. It charges the water.
Why is that charge so important for agriculture?
It dramatically improves surface adhesion. Charged water sticks perfectly to plant leaves. Think about a big, healthy raindrop. It's positively charged. Through basic electrostatics, it just adheres to the slightly negatively charged leaf.
So you use less product. If you're spraying compost tea, there's no drift, no runoff, because it just sticks.
It's all about creating the right electrical conditions.
Okay, so let's put it all together. The geometry, the carbon, the light. What is the essential lesson here?
I think the essential lesson of hyperdynamic agriculture is that by refining your resonant cavity, whether that's the soil matrix, a water vessel, or even your own body, you maximize your ability to condense light and harness electrical potential. When you do that, you become less susceptible to external uncontrolled frequencies. You stop treating chemical symptoms because you've addressed the core energetic deficiency.
And if we revisit Schauberger's idea of dynamic disequilibrium, that 23:13 ratio, that flux needed to create energy, it requires a potential difference. Force is created when things are not in perfect stasis.
Right.
So given that, here's a thought. How might the relentless modern pursuit of absolute equality, of perfect homeostasis, kind of social engineering fallacy, how might that actually degrade dynamic living systems? And where in your own life might you need to embrace that dynamic disequilibrium, that inherent tension, to foster creativity and true generative energy? Something powerful to consider as you observe the world around you.